That was nice. Welcome to my video. Today I wanted to talk about synesthesia and autism and whether there's a link or whether they are not linked, basically, and talk about the type of synesthesia that I have and actually what kind of prompted me to look into autism as a potential diagnosis for myself, because I read that they can be linked, and right before I found out I had the synesthesia, and yes, it took me my entire life basically to find out I had it, I had also suspected autism. It was something that kind of creeped in gradually over time. It wasn't something that really hit me like that, but it kind of, all these pieces of the puzzle started to come together. So anyway, in this video I kind of wanted to, excuse me, let's drink these ciders. I kind of want to go over what synesthesia is and whether it's linked to autism and all that other kind of interesting stuff, so stay tuned. Stuned? I don't know. So you may have noticed that my hairstyle has changed. I'd actually just put my adult hair cut on for this video, which I just did myself yesterday. I was just like, psh. Anyway, synesthesia. Synesthesia is a neurodevelopmental condition in which a sensation in one modality triggers a perception in a second modality. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition involving social communication disability alongside resistance to change and unusually narrow interests or activities. While on the surface they appear distinct, they have been suggested to share common atypical neuroconnectivity, so hyper-neuroconnectivity, basically, which means there's a lot of extra synaptic connections activity. The rate of synesthesia in adults with autism was 18.9%, so that was 31 people out of the 164 people they tested who had autism. The significant increase in synesthesia prevalence in autism suggests that the two conditions may share some common underlying mechanisms. Yeah, absolutely. Future research is needed to develop a more feasible validation methods of synesthesia in autism, whatever. I mean, I knew instantly that they were connected because obviously it just makes sense. Everything's cross-wiring. So it says here synesthesia occurs in 4% of the population and autism occurs in roughly 1% of the population. So if these conditions were independent, then synesthesia and autism would occur in only 4 in 10,000 people. However, both are thought to involve atypical neuroconnectivity, which may point to shared etiology. So the type of synesthesia that I want to talk about today is called space or time-space synesthesia or time-sequence synesthesia. And so basically I was looking this up on a website a while ago, and it said that people with space-time synesthesia literally experience a time-space connection. They feel like the phenomenon of time must have a physical reality, because it does. To them, time is like the applications and icons on an iPad screen laid out for them. They can physically point at specific dates in space, like you could flip or touch select an icon on a touchpad. Boop, boop, boop. That's why I'm hyper intuitive with things like that. They see time in definitive sizes, dimensions, locations, and even colour. Well, if you think about what time is, it is a dimension. So the fact that we're seeing it as a dimension isn't really that strange. This type of synesthesia actually is probably, it's said to be the most common type, but most people don't realise they have it. I think 10 to 15% of people are said to have this type of synesthesia, but don't know, just because it's so much a part of their whole experience. And the way they perceive things, they don't realize that it's different from normal, which was what the case was for me. Like, I had absolutely no clue this was weird or different. I just stumbled across it because I was looking up information on something called misophonia, which is actually another type of synesthesia, but it's not a very nice one. So anyway, that's why I was looking it up, and then I was led to all these other types of synesthesia, and I had absolutely no clue, like, this one existed. So, oh, okay. It says about 1 in 5 people, so that's a lot more than is that more than I said? Yeah. The reason why many might not know that they have this neurological condition is that it's an involuntary process that feels natural, exactly. Although not substantiated, the condition is said that could come as a result of cross-wiring between the parts of the brain that process vision and parts that process imagination and memory. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'll attempt to. It said in some studies, synesthetes were found to be faster at the recitation of months of the year in both chronological and reverse chronological order and compared to non-synesthetes. So, anyway, so basically I've provided a diagram up here somewhere of what it looks like to have this type of synesthesia. So, and this can manifest in the calendar months, the days of the week, the hours of the day. Everything is divided into sections. And when I visualize what my life looks like, it's like a long timeline, like a film reel that's stretched out in space, and I can kind of go boop and like access different points along this timeline of like what happened, this happened here, this happened there, that happened there. You know, obviously the future looks a little hazy because you can't see the future. I mean, I'm only seeing, I mean, technically I should be able to if I'm seeing time from the 4th dimension. 5th dimension, if I'm seeing it. So if I'm seeing the dimension of time, I would have to be looking at it technically from the 5th dimension. Anyway, this is getting a little bit weird. But basically I visualize the calendar months as though I'm walking around a circle that's around my body, and I'm typically always starting at November, which is when I was born, and then going around, and the summertime is always at the top, like June, July is always at the top, and then they're usually like sort of yellowy, orangey colours, and then going into August, kind of like a red, into October, which is like a dark blue, into November, which is kind of dark blue, dark purple, into December, which is yellow for some reason, into January, which is kind of like an orangey colour, into February, which is always like a wintry, kind of icy blue, into March, which is red, into April, which is red as well, but it's like a different shade of red, it's an orangey red, into May, which is always purple, into June, into June, which I guess is usually kind of like an orangey yellow. So just to give you an example, I don't know if everybody sees the months as a colour, but I think most do. And so you see it as, you visualize it all in your mind's eye like that, but also it feels as though you are in it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm kind of walking around the calendar months in a loop. Why a loop? I don't know, and I probably should have looked that up before I started doing this video, but I don't know if there's anything on that. Like, let me see if I can think about that for a second. Why a loop? Yeah, I guess a loop because we're seeing time play out, and the calendar months go from start to finish. So if you're going to visualize that in a point in space, it would have to look like a loop, I suppose, or a circle. I'm trying to think how I visualize it. The days of the week are always in boxes, sections. Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Kind of looks like a hopscotch. I don't know if I have colours for the days of the week. Usually not, I think. But I do, my brain tends to want to section time into boxes, and often when I look back on certain events, my brain will remember that event as though it's in its own box that I'm kind of able to like reach in and access. It's always kind of in a contained box. I don't know why that is, but I guess if you are able to kind of see time, then in some ways, yeah, it would kind of look like that, I think. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's very interesting stuff. But then it can apply excuse me, it can apply to all kinds of things, to like, it applies to many things that where you'll see something within space in front of you. Like often, like if I'm doing like if I'm doing maths or something, at one point I was studying physics, and I'd kind of like, you know, see the equations like laid out around me, like within my field of vision. So it's basically, yeah, it's like your imagination and your vision are very intertwined. But yeah, so it is said that this cross-wiring or synesthesia is kind of a result of this kind of cross-wiring, which is also something that happens with autism. So yeah, so that they technically could be linked, though then again, not everyone who is autistic has synesthesia, and not everyone who has synesthesia is autistic, though in one of the studies they said that some autistics possibly didn't realize that what they were experiencing was synesthesia, so the tests scores were significantly lower than they might have been had these people known what synesthesia was, or known about the different types, because I think what this study was only one of the studies was only done on like a specific type of synesthesia where you know, some people relate colors to sounds, or taste to sounds, or to shapes, or to whatever. So yes. Another thing is, when I'm counting, it's always within a point in space, and the numbers when I'm counting are always going up on a diagonal. So they'll go up on a diagonal to about 10, and then they'll switch to another diagonal up to about 20. But where the diagonal is just depends on the way I'm visualizing it, and sometimes it'll be going up backwards this way. It's in 3D space that I'm visualizing the numbers kind of going up. So if you have this type of synesthesia, that's very cool, because I actually think it's quite interesting. But the downside to this is, it says that people who have this type of synesthesia are unable to forget even the smallest and the least important details about occurrences in their life, which is so true. Like, I've had some very traumatic experiences which my brain will always instantly go back to. It always go straight back to that box where some traumatic event happened, and it's like I'm constantly taken back there, you know. And so that can be a bit tiring sometimes, because I keep kind of reliving that trauma. So I'm a little bit nuts at this point. So yeah. And now I'm making YouTube videos, so very interesting. So anyway, I hope you liked my video. If you have any questions, comment below, and I can see if I can answer them. Obviously, yeah, this is mostly about the kind of synesthesia that I've got, but I've also looked into the other sorts as well, so I know about those. So comment if you've got synesthesia or whatever, if you're autistic, or if there's anything you feel like commenting about and that you want answering. I'm sure I've got some kind of weird answer for you. And yeah, and if you liked the content, please hit subscribe and like, and just to know that you loved it and that you love me. I'm sure you don't. But yeah, it does really help the channel. So thanks very much, and goodbye.